Marcus Aurelius says, "When you decide that whatever is happening right now is all fine and good, when you're not bothered whether you've got lots to do or not very much, as long as it's all in harmony with reason, then you won't care whether your time left on this planet is long or short." The most common theme you'll see in the Stoicism centers on the shortness of human life, which Stoic like Seneca writes about extensively. The point here is that we're all mortal. Regardless of how long we have left on the planet, we're all going to die. However it happens, the end result is a certainty. The meditations were written towards the end of Marcus's life, so his own mortality may well have been a more pressing concern than would be the case for a younger man. Marcus Aurelius died in 180 AD, aged 58. This was respectable for the time he lived in, but falls short of what we might call a good innings. Regardless of whether Marcus Aurelius thought of himself as old or felt the shadow of the Grim Reaper sneaking up, he was remarkably unfazed by the prospect. If we contrast this with our modern world, we see some stark differences. The reality is, few of us ever see anyone die. Not in real life anyway. What was a natural, everyday event in Marcus's time is now largely a medical procedure, hidden from most people's eyes. Many would see this as a good thing, but to do so is to distance ourselves from one of the most natural events in all humanity. And that distance creates a widespread ignorance of how people actually die, breeds an exaggerated fear of death. We hide behind euphemisms. They passed away, lost their battle, kicked the bucket. We chase every new fix that may extend our lives a little longer, taking vitamins, eating clean, not eating at all for extended periods. We expect miracles from our doctors and blame them when they fail to do the impossible. In Marcus's eyes, death was nothing to be feared. You should always behave like your next breath will be your last. If there is a God of some sort, you've got nothing to fear anyway. If there isn't, or they simply don't care about us mere mortals, then forget them. We've evolved to deal with all sorts of challenges. Why assume this all falls apart at death? You're probably more ready to face your end than you realize. Marcus Aurelius writes, "When you really look at it, death is about as natural as things get. You might as well fear the sun coming up. In fact, death is not just a natural event. It also helps keep the whole of nature working by recycling much-needed atoms." Fundamentally, Marcus saw death as just another natural event, same as birth. He dwells less on the thought of an afterlife and more on the idea that all of us are made up of atoms, and that when we die, our atoms will simply disperse to join all the other atoms in the universe around us. But while he was fine with the idea of dying, it did lead him to emphasize that it's important to act while we can, not to hesitate or wait for the right moment, which may never come. We see him caution himself repeatedly against wasting time worrying about what others may think and do, when he could be getting on with making the world a better place. All those books you plan to read, those tabs you have open for later, that bucket list of experiences to try before you die, someday, maybe. Do it now, while there's still time. You're a long time dead. While you may prefer not to think about your death, or the deaths of your loved ones, it will not change its inevitability. Ignoring it, however, may mean you spend less time and effort cherishing others. You may say, "I love you" less often than you could, or avoid saying "I'm leaving you" when you really should. You might put up with shitty jobs that suck the very life out of you, You might never say, "Screw it, let's go to vacation." In Marcus's world, the pervasive presence of death served as a reminder to live. It acted as a source of motivation for the Stoics to do the very best they could with what they had for as long as they had left. It inspired Marcus to fully engage with the world around him. If all this talk is making you uncomfortable, it could be that you simply fear death. To a greater or lesser extent, many of us do. Here, again, the ever-pragmatic Marcus has some advice. You're afraid of dying, I get it. Try this for size. Think of all those old people who staved off the reaper for longer than most, but are now pushing up daisies. Are they better off than those who didn't manage a good innings? Sure, they got a few more years of work, a few more years of hanging out with tolerable people, a few more years encased in a failing body. Maybe that's a good thing. But still, they all ended up dead, just like everyone else. When you think about the 13.8 billion years to date and the probable infinity of years to come, there's not much difference between a centenarian with a weak bladder and a baby that doesn't make it out of the hospital. Maybe this feels a little brutal. But in our over-medicated age, there is often the sense that we should try to eke out our existence for as long as we possibly can, no matter what that may mean for the quality of our lived experience. For Marcus, this would be a bad deal. He would say that we should do what we can while we can, so that when the time comes, we're ready to die, with no worries of things left undone. He would also tell us to take the long view. For Marcus, birth and death are all part of a cycle. We are made of atoms. When we die, our bodies will break down, and these atoms will become part of something else. While this is not a vision of an everlasting soul and a wonderful afterlife, it does give us all a sense that we are part of something far, far bigger. Marcus Aurelius best sums this up in his book Meditation, where he says, "We all die. When I pass, my children will bury me. In time, their children will bury them or see them go up in smoke. It's always been this way." Thousands of years of smart people, arrogant people, downright odd people, where are they now? All those geniuses, gone in a flash, some forgotten, some remembered as heroes and legends. So think about how your wonderful, complex body will one day be broken down into its atoms and scattered, your little life extinguished, and everything that makes up your body recycled by the universe. Recognizing death is ultimately a fundamental part of life. Rather than simply look at it as the end of something, we can instead view it as a way to help us begin to live better. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more empowering content. Thanks for watching.